And we've got a pretty full agenda today with at least 5, hopefully 6 presenters. We're going to start with Lindsay Cassidy, who will give us an update on academic development and recovery advising. Dr. Andrew Finstuen will then give us an update on the Honors College. After that, we're going to hear some updates on Bronco Ready from Maria Paluzzi. Megan Lindbeck will talk with us about the Boise State Advisor Summit that's coming up. And then Brett Shelton will give an update on esports and course updates. And I'm hoping that we will be able to hear from Barb Kirschmeyer, who will talk with us about independent study options in the state of Idaho, but she's having trouble getting into the Zoom meeting at this point. So Tim, hopefully we'll be able to help her get in, but if not, we will try to reschedule her for our next meeting. So Lindsay, take it away.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Wanted to provide some updates from the academic development and recovery side of the house today. I'm going to just share my screen. All right, so is everyone kind of seeing a table of lots of numbers on the screen? Thumbs up. Okay, so just to kind of give you a quick snapshot of sort of academic standing numbers as we end the fall and kind of move into the spring, wanted to just quickly show you a table of numbers that we've been tracking since prior to my start in ADR and many of our starts here at the institution back to the fall of 13. Kind of looking at our probation 1 numbers, probation 2, removed from probation and dismissed students at the end of every fall term. A few things just to highlight for you all is that we are finally seeing a little bit of a decrease in our probation 1 numbers after an uptick during our pandemic semesters, which is kind of good to see, and hopefully a downward trend there as well. Kind of just interesting to note as well that our continued probation, removed from probation, and dismissed numbers are very flat kind of year over year, which is just sort of interesting to sort of note kind of those constant trends that we're seeing. Wanted to dig into a little bit of our first time probation numbers specifically. So these are students who have been placed on academic probation for the very first time at the end of the fall semester. Again, similar trends that you can see again ticked up during the fall of 20, fall of 21, and are starting to kind of taper hopefully a little bit back down towards our pre-pandemic numbers. This slide is of interest, I think, for you all as we kind of look at enrollment numbers for our first-time probation status students. I think one of the largest concerns, obviously, is a subsequent dismissal by our first-time probation status students, but we also know that these students don't enroll in subsequent semesters at a very high rate. So we are seeing about 50% of the students who were placed on academic probation at the end of the fall semester not enrolled in the spring semester following. This number will change a little bit. We know these students often make enrollment decisions at the very last minute. I'm sure you're seeing a number of them in your offices over the last week or two. So we anticipate this number coming down a little bit. But, I think that's just something that affects all of us in real time, knowing that when students struggle academically, they are less likely to return for a following semester. Some new data for our first-time probation status students was we were starting to look at what was their high school GPA, knowing that high school GPA can often be an indicator of student success towards a degree in higher education. One of the things that was interesting is about 50% of our first-time probation status students have GPAs 3.0 and above. So kind of bucks, I think, some of our trends, a little bit of a shrug and a head scratcher there about kind of what's happening in the high schools, high school preparedness coming into college, how well they're preparing our students. Questions about grade inflation. I don't know, Tomas, you unmuted. You've got some thoughts here, I'm sure, but.
No, nothing other than let's just blame the high schools.
Yeah, there we go. But, we are still seeing students who come in who are successful in their high schools going on probation in their first semester here at Boise State. And then what are our most represented majors? these trends follow pretty consistently year over year. We see pre-business psychology, general undeclared out of ASC, and then some of our pre-health science and engineering programs tend to be our most represented majors as well. So these students will be seeing you. We'll be likely reaching out for curricular support as well. Any questions just about our first-time probation numbers, academic standing numbers before I kind of move towards just giving you an update on our pilot with UF 100? So just to recap, at the beginning of the fall semester, we presented a little bit of information about an upcoming pilot that we were participating with UF 100 on. We partnered with 4 UF 100 sections. So about 400 students, to initiate outreach to students who were showing early signs of academic challenge. So whether that was low engagement in their course via lack of attendance, low Canvas engagement, early missing assignments, or instructor indicated challenges, both at weeks 4 and weeks 7. So a little bit more intensive outreach at some earlier points in the semester at signs of early warning that they were engaging in some behaviors that may not be indicative of academic success. Early outcomes, we haven't dug into all the data at this point in time, but we did reach 74 students through our pilot across, those 4 sections, working about 20% of the students in those sections we connected with. 43 of those students did engage with our office, 31 did not. But of those students that did engage with us, 62% went on to have a final grade in the course of a C- or higher. And this is, I think, a good thing to note, knowing that most of these students we were reaching out to were at a C- or below at that point of intervention. So they were able to kind of turn things around and re-engage and improve outcomes in that course. Additionally, enrollment too for those students. So students who engaged with us went on to enroll at a higher rate for the spring semester than those that did not. We do know that those students who do not engage with us go through our alerts processes, through our probation outreach, tend to be a little disengaged across courses, across outreach from other offices on campus, and tend not to enroll as well. So this is not surprising in a lot of different ways. But wanted to just share that out. We're continuing the pilot this spring with 2 UF 100 sections, and then we are partnering with a faculty teaching 1 section of Psych 101 and 1 section of Anthropology 105 this semester as well, to expand to a couple of different foundational courses there. So more to come. Any questions?
Lindsay, since this is totally putting you on the spot, or anyone in your team, but since there's a little bit of time extra now, are there any other updates that you would like to give the group? Anything that has come up in the last semester or so in terms of misunderstandings about academic development and recovery, or maybe underutilized aspects of that resource for students that advisors might want to know about?
Chelsea, is there anything that you'd like to touch on?
No, not that I can think of.
I will just thank you all for kind of participating in the new immediate reinstatement process, meeting with probably more dismissed students than normal to kind of talk with them about potential academic plans. As far as I understand, the Academic Appeals Committee will be reviewing those appeals tomorrow. And so, students should be notified of the appeals decisions in the next day or 2. Happy to come around. I know there's been some changes in advising staffing, lots of new advisors across campus. So Mary Crowell and College of Health Sciences already reached out, but if it's helpful for us to revisit some of our policies, procedures, reminders about holds, ways that we can partner, would love to connect with folks through the spring semester as well. Cole, do you have your hand up? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious. So for folks for immediate reinstatement who met with us and are having their materials reviewed on Wednesday, would it be a suggestion for students to attend class or miss all of that content? Because I felt a little unsure of the best guidance to give them, because I didn't want them to not turn in their materials, but they're also going to be starting late, which is kind of counterproductive to success.
Yes, and that is a sentiment that we share, that this is a really challenging turnaround. But the registrar has been really supportive of students continuing to have the option to submit an appeal for an immediate reinstatement, given the feedback that we do provide in that area. We, I think, to an advisor, do recommend that students reach out to the instructors of the courses that they are interested in, see if they can attend or just go that first, those first couple of days, potentially inform them of what's going on and that they are hoping to have a registration hold lifted so that they can enroll, but they're awaiting some decisions by the appeals committee, and be proactive and potentially scheduling an appointment towards the end of this week to get caught up on anything that maybe that they have missed. But yeah, if they can show up, of course, which has been tricky with COVID, right? And classroom restrictions on size and seating and things like that. But those restrictions seem to be lessening. So yeah, students can go. It's definitely to their advantage. Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Cole. It's a really good question, something that Lindsay and I just talked about yesterday, in fact. Any other questions for Lindsay or her team? Okay, thank you, ADR. At this point, let's transition to Andrew Finswin, who will provide some updates on the Honors College. Andrew.
Hi, everybody. Just getting myself situated here. Thanks for giving me some time. It's good to be with a group of advisors. I was thinking about back when I served as interim vice provost for undergraduate studies and got more of an in-depth exposure to advising both at AASC and across the colleges. And so I guess my first word is just a word of thanks, because I know how much effort you all put into what you're doing and how critical it is to our students and their success. So really do appreciate chance to be in front of you again. It's been some time, and obviously some of you maybe don't know me because you're new to the university or new to advising. So anyway, thank you very much for your critical and engaged work. I know how important it is, and can't say enough about your efforts. So thank you. Now I'm going to show you just a couple of quick data points. I realized, in the course of serving as interim vice provost and then moving into the pandemic, I have not done the best job of making sure that both my colleagues at the Dean's Council and then all of you at colleges and faculty and staff know just some kind of nuts and bolts about honors. So I really appreciate the time. I've got a very short set of slides that will just present some data and kind of what we're doing and how we're involved with the students, that I think, and how they, our students, of course, are your students. We are first and foremost going to always give credit to the excellent work in each of the disciplinary colleges, and then how those students interact with our program. So with that,
And Andrew, sorry to interrupt.
share my screen.
Andrew,
I do.
Barb will not be able to attend the meeting today and so present. And so you actually have some extra time if you want to use it, Andrew.
Oh, I'll just go all day then. That sounds great.
All right. We go till 4:30.
So let me get myself, this just gives you, thank you, Tomas. This just gives you a snapshot of how honors breaks out across the colleges. And this is the kind of information that we want to supply to you all regularly. You can see it's no surprise that they kind of map to the size of the undergraduate population across the university. And this includes double majors. You can see that toward the bottom there, we have just under 1,100 individual students, but this is how honor students break out across the colleges by major, minors and certificates. So it just gives you, and we're happy to provide this or send it out after this, but it gives you a sense of how we map to the wider university. And then this is, we do a lot of recruiting. We bring in about 300 first-year students. And the slide, in a sense, speaks for itself, but this 65% report that honors was significant to their decision to attend Boise State, we asked that question before they actually enroll. I mean, before they're on campus in the classes. They come to us for our orientation, so they don't, all they really know about our program is what they've heard from our recruiting pitches. And then we ask them during that orientation week that we have them here, this question. So it's reasonable to think that they aren't too biased by trying to impress us, and we do it anonymously. But even if we're conservative, so that's almost 200 students. But conservatively, because we rank it out, like, was it the deciding factor? Was it really important? Was it significant? Conservatively, I'd say the Honors College accounts for somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 or 50 students that would not otherwise come to Boise State without the Honors College. That's, when you just think about from a university standpoint, that's really important. I mean, every student counts at Boise State, as we know, and how this impacts our operations and our ability to serve students. And of course, also they're paying tuition and the like, but 65% say it's significant, very important, or deciding factor. So that's something I think that's important for you all to be aware of. And then first year retention, you see there at 94%. Now, I'm the first to say that honors does not get to take credit for 94%. Some of you get to take credit for that. The students themselves get to take credit for that because they're bright, motivated students. But we do have a significant impact on students also staying here. And then you can see our graduation, or those who complete our program, is steadily climbing. Honors is voluntary. They don't need to be as part of our program, but we have a pretty significant impact on those 1,000 students in their wanting to stay at the university. So I think it's important, again, the partnership across the excellent work of all the colleges and how then the Honors College brings value to the university. And I can tell you, I know that Dr. Tromp and Dr. Buckwalter pay a lot of attention to how we're able to recruit students from across, well, you'll see in a minute, from across some demographics to help with that student success that I know you all care so deeply about. And then scholarships, the other thing to think about, we're approaching now, Anel tells me, Anel Friends, who helps us with this, maybe by next year, closer to $1 million in scholarship aid that's unique to honors, right? So the university has its scholarship money, and then we have our scholarship funds, and you see there that 62% of honors goes to students with financial need. And I'm constantly raising money. That's part of my job. And again, that goes to all of the majors. We didn't have time, but we wanted to show you a breakout of how this money flows to the different majors. So it's pretty significant financial benefit for some of our students on top of what the university provides or college scholarships. Here you see our demographics, which are not as strong in terms of across representation, but we more or less match the university. You see there on res, non-res, underrepresented populations, we're at about 20%. You see the growth there we had from 2012. We've been tried to be intentional in that regard. So I won't read the slide. You can see across the board, we're obviously not quite as heavy on first gen or Pell, but we really are stressing financial need with all of our donors to think about attracting more and more students from these populations that need that support. And I think I have one more. National fellowships, the other thing we provide for the whole campus. You do not have to be an honor student. In this time period, 1932 to 2012, the university won a total of 12 fellowships. Since we've taken it over, we've won 41. I think that's actually up. This data is a little bit old. So post 2012, we've won 41 fellowships, including the Rhodes, the first ever Marshall, 26 Fulbrights, Goldwaters, Trumans, and so on. These are the biggest awards for undergraduates. And of course, we're winning them because of the excellent faculty and advising that they get in their colleges, but then also we mentor them through the process. And this brings a lot of attention to the university when we win these. So just wanted to give you that sense. And then how it breaks out top 10 scholars, we always know that the wonderful work that happens in colleges, you'll hear me a broken record on that, but then we're also supportive of these students. And you can see that in any given year, we're more or less 5 or 6, sometimes more students who have a given major in a college, but also are part of our program. So I went through those kind of rapidly, even though maybe there's more time. And just to give you a sense of how we support the wider university's work and each of your colleges' work. And I think it's especially important to stress the work that we do to help recruit students here, to keep them here, and I need to do more of this, and to fund them while they're here. So I'll just pause for a second maybe on that and see if there's any questions or comments. And I got one other item. Is that all right, Tomas? Questions, comments?
Absolutely.
Andrew, I have a question. What kind of information are you doing regarding online students? You're in online only majors, or are those maybe non-traditional students in those online majors? Are they participating in honors? And if they are, what's their success or completion like? Or is that not something we're exploring at this point?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. And I'm going to ask Brandy to respond to it. One thing I'll mention that's not an answer to your question, which is a perfect way to not to turn it over to Brandy, but is, so now I think all of our classes but one are online. So students have access to online, but you're talking about fully online students and what are their honors options. And so Brandy, I'm going to have you take a stab at that. To be honest, I've never been asked that question, Tim, so I appreciate you asking it. And Brandy, what's our answer?
So I have conversations individually with fully online degree students if they're interested in pursuing honors. As Andrew said, all of our courses are offered online except for the first semester honors 198 course, but we would be open to online options if there was a high enough need for that. What I've found is because the online degree programs have alternate fee schedules, that students aren't really keen on wanting to combine 2 different tuition models and add additional coursework to programs that are actually built to be degree completion programs and are pretty streamlined. So it hasn't seemed to sync up yet and make sense for those students. But anytime a student wants to have that conversation, I have that conversation and say, this is what you're looking at getting into. Are you interested? And so far, the answer has been no from those students.
And on the non-traditional student question, which oftentimes they're in the degree completion programs, but any given year we have transfer students from community colleges and non-traditional students that we offer a separate track for, if it makes sense, so that they're not necessarily just grouped with first-year freshmen as they get oriented into our program. So that's another piece. The other thing I didn't mention, and then if there are other questions, is we also, we offer a full slate of co-curricular programming to try to help students. We know students are challenged with work and all that kind of stuff, and can't always take advantage, but we recently had a donor pledge a very significant gift for us to help with students paying for example, service trips and other kinds of things. So that's another arm of our financial support to the students, is helping them in their co-curricular activities. So I just wanted to mention that as well as part of what we're contributing to the students here at Boise State. But other questions or comments or concerns?
Andrew, I have a question about self-reported experience of the Honors College students themselves. What would you say is the predominant feedback that you get from students when they talk about the value of the Honors College experience? What did it mean for them, or what do they think they got out of it that they wouldn't have if they had come to Boise State and were not in the Honors College?
It's a great question, and one thing our students say a lot is priority registration. So they like priority registration, and I've used to kind of try to, anyway, it doesn't matter. That's a great benefit that they have as part of the Honors College. But I will tell you a story I had just today with a student, and then I'll offer a couple comments, and maybe Chris and Nell and Brandy might jump in. But I think what they value is the smaller community. When we say we're big school opportunity, but within a small school environment, I think that really matters for the students who kind of make us another layer of support in an academic home. I mean, they bond with their colleges, but we're just another level of support. And that smaller community, even though we're 1,000 students, does give I guess a little more personalized experience. The student I was talking with today, he just was in one of my classes, was talking about the small discussion-based classes, and he said, you know, I appreciate that I have an opportunity to speak in class regularly in honors where I wouldn't necessarily have that opportunity in other classes when they're larger and so on. Wasn't making a value judgment about that. That's just our ability to have smaller classes. And so I think it's that academic support, it's the co-curricular offerings, and then it's the breadth of courses that we offer in the honors college that allow students to explore a bit. I often hear from engineering majors who stick with us. We have a good percentage, as you saw. We'll say things like, you know, I don't have, as we know, College of Engineering students or nursing students or education majors, and really appreciate that they can take some courses that are outside of, and you can do that otherwise, but, you know, outside of the norm, but again, in that small discussion-based environment. So I would offer those things. Brandy and Nell or Chris, do you want to jump in with a couple of thoughts?
I think the thing that I hear the most when I'm doing the senior seminars is the idea of simply being able to do what you were just talking about in the final instance, is be able to take courses that are outside of their majors. They fully recognize the importance of taking all of the courses that they need to within their majors, but that being able to refresh their brain by looking at things from a different angle is an important part of what honors gives them. But I would also say I am seeing some familiar names in the people attending this meeting. And if one of the former honors students of several that I see here would care to jump in and say something about what they found their honors experience to do for them, that would be fine by me.
I'm
happy to go.
happy to sorry, I guess we were speaking
Go
at the same
in.
time. I actually did not end up finishing in honors, but the time that I spent in it was super helpful. And honestly, one of my all-time favorite courses at Boise State was an honors course. It was one of the colloquia about volcanoes in society. And unfortunately, then the professor moved to Tasmania at the end of the semester, so nobody got to take that course from him again. But it really was a great small experience. Obviously, that was when honors was in Driscoll instead of having their own building. But other than that, I think also it was a great place to be in a community of similar people that were also like high achieving students coming out of college. Because something that struck me about Lindsay's data that she presented earlier is that we do have so many people that come out of being high achieving high school students and then really struggle in college because maybe they're having to work harder, or maybe they've never experienced failure before, so they don't know what it looks like. And so being able to be around other students that are going through those same sorts of things, I think could be really helpful.
I'll add that a big part of my experience of coming to Boise State and into the honors college relates to like what I got excited about in my mentality as the sort of the entry point. I got my acceptance letter for Boise State itself, already knowing I would be admitted because there's this little calculator that says, you'll be in, just hit this button. It was so straightforward. It was when I got my acceptance letter to the honors college that I had my woohoo moment that I shared with all my family and friends. And that drove with me into my first year, that sense of I made it into something that recognize my additional work, and I want to keep that momentum. And it gave me a sense of, for one, being elevated into higher levels of thinking and just feeling like I'm going to succeed in college, but also keeping myself up to that standard. I really loved having so many familiar faces in a lot of my honors classes and the community co-curricular events. I am still close friends with so many people from the honors college, even that was 12 years ago. I'm married to one of them. I remember being in our honors colloquium class together, and I think another pitch that is more from her experience, one of the papers she wrote in that class, she got to go through the experience of submitting to a writing competition, and that experience elevated her to feel like she wanted to go back to grad school. And I do think that honors classes have that sort of mentality of, hey, have you ever thought of grad school? That sort of mentality that keeps us moving on to higher scholarship, right? And so that is very contagious in the community.
Andrew, it sounds to me like Cole should be in your next promotional brochure.
No, I didn't realize, and now I'm recognizing the faces. I should just have been quiet the whole time. Go ahead, Joe, you're up next, I think.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say I really liked the small like college feel of the honors college. I came from a really small town outside of like Seattle-ish area. I didn't know anyone coming to Boise State, and having a head of house like Chris Heyer, who's in the meeting right now, as my person to go to every single semester was really great. He was like a person that I could definitely like ground myself in. I always had to meet with him each semester, so that along with like having a advisor within the honors college and an advisor within my major, having both of those like tools that were allowed to me were also like one of the best things about the honors college. Is that like there's always so much hope and support for the students, and that's one of the major things about the honors college I liked.
Tomas, I'm mindful of time because I've got one other thing I want to mention. Are we good?
Yeah, go for it.
Thanks for the students, but I do want to pick up on something that Ann said, because I appreciate that she spoke up and said, I didn't finish the program, but I appreciated this part of it. We know that it doesn't always fit for every student. We'll do our level best to make it work, but it doesn't always fit. And so we recognize that, and we just want to have that conversation with the student or perhaps with you. So I really appreciate you saying that. The other piece that Ann made me think of in her comment was there's national data about this. So again, we can't take that much credit, but if an honors student comes to a given university, starts the honors program and leaves, they're like at a 90% level to graduate from that same university rather than transfer. Okay, so that's just another piece that we often talk about, is the way in which we have maybe helped students stay here, even if they don't finish our program. And that's important, again, for our collective work. So thanks again, Ann, for bringing that up, and for Nate, and for Joe for speaking about your experiences. The last thing I just wanted to say, and it's all this effort that we should have been embarking, I take responsibility for that more regularly, where we come before you and share some information, is that you'll be receiving emails, both AASC and then the college advising teams, that Chris and Ellen Brandy, who really work on our advising, will come around and meet with you at a time that's convenient for your advising teams to just kind of make sure that we're communicating well with you and understanding the perception of honors from your perspective, because we also want to learn those kinds of questions and issues that you're dealing with, while also sharing our information and make sure you have the resources you need. Because as Joe said, there is often the double advising that's happening. We've got honor specific advising and then college or AASC advising. So we really want to try to be more proactive and coming to you all. And so look for that, and would appreciate you finding some time with some number of your advising teams in the colleges or AASC to further the conversation.
We have one last question from Karina, but also Andrew, anyone from the Honors College who wants to try to hit all of us at the same time would be welcome to attend the small University Advising Network meeting. And that's the directors of all of the advising units. But obviously, I think each one of the units would welcome a representative to come to their respective team meetings too.
Great, thanks, Tomas.
Karina?
And Andrew, my question was, can you just include concurrent enrollment into that listing of those visits as well? We send a lot of our students your way, and we'd like to continue that relationship.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for that. We'll make sure that that happens. So I really appreciate the time today, and thanks again for all that you do, and I'll let you continue on with your business.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we now have been joined by Barb Kirschmeyer. We'll get her in as soon as we've heard from Maria Paluzzi about Bronco Ready course updates. Maria?
Great. Mine will be pretty brief, I promise. So with Bronco Ready, we had a turnaround based off of some feedback from students. So I know many of you are used to Bronco Ready, where it was a choose your own path. And a lot of students often kind of felt overwhelmed with that. And so we turned it into be a completely linear course. And so as students are completing different assignments within a module, once that module is done, then it unlocks the next one. And so this way it gives students a much clearer path of expectations of what they're completing. And we're kind of able to have some sense of here's what you might want to know first before you go into the next steps. And that also helps to eliminate some of that overwhelmed feelings of what students were expressing in the prior course. Additionally, in the past, Bronco Ready was a points-based system. So students would earn about 1,300 points to also accompany a final to then receive the free credit. But we made it so it is a complete or incomplete grading scale. And within the course, we do have rubrics associated with the assignment. So there's some clarity of the expectation of what it means to receive something that's complete versus incomplete. So we ensure that there's some guidance there. So far we have had, I believe, about 20 students engaged with the course for spring. And so far it's pretty clear to students what the expectation is. And we have noticed quite a big difference between the engagement, but also the content depth that students have produced. So students have really dived into creating more in-depth responses to the questions that we're having for reflections compared to what we've seen last time. And I think the guided rubrics are a really big help to that. There is still a final assignment. And with the final assignment, that one is still points-based because there's quite a few pieces to that. But it's clear to students that there's still that complete incomplete grading there. But with the points assigned for the final assignment, we're just asking that students receive at least a 70% from that final, and then that would be considered complete passing for that final. So for students, upon completing all the modules, receiving a complete grade, and then having a 70% passing on the final, that would then lead to them earning that free credit. And we did update all the language throughout the course and within the homepage, so that way it's clear to students prior to them starting what the expectation is. And we even included an overview page within the first module that revisits the expectations before they really start diving into assignments. Because we know as students talk with past students, they're going to be used to a potential old system. And so we wanted to be really clear on what they're going to be doing with these updates. And then for Bronco Ready for spring, it is due March 17th. So that's the final deadline for the spring term.
Maria, I have a very naive question. I apologize. I'll jump out in front of Cole, but hopefully this will be a foundation and jumping off point for other questions. For the benefit of the newer members of the professional community, what is Bronco Ready? Why does it exist? And what do we hope students get out of it?
That is a wonderful question. Bronco Ready is essentially a course for all new incoming students to Boise State. And it is not just for first-year traditional students. There is information that will also be beneficial to transfer non-traditional students. So it's catered to those populations, the new incoming. And with Bronco Ready, clear goals that are set for them is to help them feel confident being a college-ready learner at Boise State, engaging in some identity exploration, real-world community engagement discussions, and just resources that they can find outside of campus. But then additionally, we have academic and other campus support resources that they can engage with as well. And we're providing resource exploration opportunities there. So we have some that are specific that lead to student outreach. We have some that help to express what counseling services are available, but that's guided with content around mental health awareness. And then we also favor over to academic support. And so we have some resources for time management, study, note-taking skills, and then that leads us back to showing resources that we have within our office with our academic support team.
Cole, did you still have a question? I apologize.
Nothing to apologize for. Yeah, just a quick question for clarification. For students who engage with Bronco Ready, but do not finish it, there's, just for the clarification piece, there's no negative impact. And then the kind of the other aspect with keeping points for the last assignment, does that ever confuse students as to why they don't get a letter grade rather than a P? Just a question.
Yeah. So for the first one, there is no penalty for completing the course. If students do not complete it, and it is made sure in a lot of communications and also on that homepage as well, no penalties for not completing the course. It is really meant to be a resource for students to engage with the opportunity to earn the free credit, but yeah, no penalty there. With the course, it's also expressed prior that it is based off a pass-fail grade, so there is no letter grade associated with it. And so far, we have not seen any confusion, and we did do a test run with learning assistants to go through the course to see, does it make sense that there's no points associated, but you see something different towards the final? And they all were pretty clear in understanding that based off the complete incomplete, that final is just then a complete based off the percentage. And from past experience, all students by the point of completing that final, they've done a really great job with it and put in that effort. So we don't see too many students not produce a great final. Does that answer your questions, Cole?
Yeah, thank you.
And Tim had a question.
I work in the office. I should know the answer to this, but do students, after they complete Bronco Ready, do they have continued access to it so they can go back and revisit those resources, or once they're done, or do they no longer have access to that site?
They have continued access to it. So that's the one thing that often students get a little bit confused by towards the end, is they want to be removed or they're not understanding that course, since we completely invite them by adding them in. And so that's where that communication comes in around it being optional. But no, students do not get removed from the course once it's completed. And then we do share that it's, while it's closed, it's still continued access as a resource for them.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions regarding Bronco Ready? Okay, thank you, Maria. It is my great pleasure to welcome Barb Kirschmeyer. We were able to figure out the glitch in the Zoom meeting invitation that was keeping her out of the meeting, but she is now here. And so Barb, would you please present to us any and all information that you had intended to regarding independent study in the state of Idaho?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you for your patience trying to get me into the meeting. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your patience and not just saying the heck with you guys, I'm out of here.
Man, if something's going to go wrong, it's going to happen like in this sort of situation at the beginning of the semester when nobody's ready for it. Totally understand. My name is Barb Kirschmeyer, and I am the Director of Independent Study in Idaho. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about what independent study in Idaho is, and then give you some information about ways that students tend to use independent study in Idaho, and then give you some time to ask me a few questions if there's any questions from the group. So independent study in Idaho began its existence as a correspondence course program. Words escaped me momentarily there, apologies. So what happened was in the 1970s, the State Board of Education put together this independent study in Idaho program that acted as an umbrella with our 4 four-year institutions in the state of Idaho. So courses from University of Idaho, Boise State University, Idaho State University, and Lewis Clark State College were offered through independent study in Idaho in a correspondence course format. So in the 1970s, what that meant was students enrolled in a class and we put the entire course together in a paper packet and we physically mailed it to them. And then they would do assignments on their own, reading through a course packet with really no instruction from an instructor, mailing their assignments back one at a time, making their way through the course and eventually earning the credit for that class. Of course, technology has changed quite a bit since the 1970s, and now most of our independent study in Idaho courses are offered through Canvas. They are very similar to a traditional online course, but they have the students who are not currently matriculated in any of the 4 Idaho public institutions can still take independent study in Idaho courses. So for example, a student at Boise State University who needs like a Psych 415 class that's not being offered on campus or at a convenient time for a Boise State student could jump onto an independent study in Idaho Psych 415 class, complete the course, have that course transferred to their Boise State transcript, and then it will appear as any course that they've taken through Boise State or transferred from another institution. We still have a line of paper-based correspondence courses that are for incarcerated students. So we still manage to juggle all of that paper for incarcerated students, but for our non-incarcerated students, we moved everything into an online platform. We offer over 100 undergraduate level courses, mini courses in our GEM areas. So if you have a student who's working on general education credits and they're having a hard time getting into those classes on campus for whatever reason, there's the opportunity to complete some of your GEM credits through independent study in Idaho. All of our courses are self-paced online and students can take up to a year to complete them. So you can register for them at any time. You don't have to wait for the beginning of a traditional semester system, and you can start the course as soon as you're registered in it, which is usually about a 24-hour process. So if I needed to take English 102, I could send in my registration electronically for English 102 today, and then by tomorrow evening, I'd be able to start my English 102 class, and I'd have a year to complete that course, or I could do it as quickly as I wanted, though we recommend that students take at least 3 months to complete the course because we have the same number of contact hours in the independent study in Idaho courses that you would in a traditional on-campus course or a traditional online course offered through one of your campuses. So we have that same requirement. One thing that a lot of people ask about is how much this program costs and is it included in a student's tuition. It is not included in a student's tuition. So if a student enrolls in an independent study in Idaho course, they're going to have to pay for it out of pocket. It's not financial aid eligible, though our dual credit and concurrent enrollment students can use their advanced opportunities funds to cover the cost of an independent study in Idaho course. It won't cover the entire cost of the course, but it covers some of that. And some students who have like military benefits can use some of those funding sources to cover the cost of independent study in Idaho. Most of our students will pay out of pocket though. The cost of an independent study in Idaho course is relatively low when we compare it to the cost per credit in our public institutions. So a student will pay $160 per credit to take an independent study in Idaho course, plus a $30 processing fee. So a 3-credit undergraduate course like English 102 would cost them $510 out of pocket to complete the course. There's no out-of-state tuition. Doesn't matter where you're from. Doesn't matter if you are matriculated to any of our institutions. The cost remains the same across the board. Students get a year to take it to complete the course, working at their own pace. If they get to that end of a year and there are a couple of assignments away, we can offer them an extension so they can purchase up to another 4 months of time to complete that course. After that, though, you're a year and a half in, you probably don't remember what you did at the beginning of the course. So we don't typically do extensions after that initial extension when you're about 16 months into the course. So in a quick nutshell, that's independent study in Idaho. Most students use this opportunity for a couple of reasons. They get halfway through the spring semester, let's say, and realize that they have a required course that they must take in the fall, but they haven't met the prereqs for that course yet. Oftentimes that would push them back an entire semester because they would need to use the fall semester to take the prereq and then register for the course they need in the spring. The ISI offers quite a few prereq sort of courses, so a student could jump into that class in the middle of the spring semester, complete the prereq, and be ready to register for the required course on time for them. We also have students who will begin an on-campus course and feel as if they're not being successful in that course and drop it around midterm time, but they need that course in that semester to stay on track to graduate on time. So they can jump into an ISI version of the course and spend some time kind of retaking the course sooner than they would be able to if they were on a semester basis. And then finally, we have students who take ISI classes because they're trying to get ahead in their programs. So they max out on the number of credits they think they can handle on campus, and they take an independent study class because they know they've got that year, that bit of flexibility built in for taking the course at their own pace online as it makes sense to them. So those are really our three main reasons that we see students enroll in classes. With that, since I just talked at you really fast to give you a lot of information, does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns?
I have a question, and I don't know if you covered this and I missed it, but you mentioned that the cost is the same for students if they're in or out of state. Are international students able to take these courses?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So it's the cost is the same for any student group.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi there. I'm a pre-nursing advisor. I frequently have had students realize they need the equivalent of nutrition. Issue has been a couple of times that they need it before the end of the semester, and sometimes they run into issues where they're burning right through it, but the grades aren't posting. Can you talk a little about how students can plan for success if they really need to get that grade posted by the time the middle of the semester hits?
Sure. So when we work with the teachers who we hire to teach independent study in Idaho courses, their contract gives them up to 2 weeks to grade student work. So it does mean that sometimes grades come in a little bit slower than students want them, because a student will do the work very, very quickly and then say, okay, where are my grades? And our teachers are on a contract that allow them to have 2 weeks to read, process, grade, and return work. So what we recommend is that if a student is on a particularly tight deadline, that they tell us that as they're registering for the class, so that we can communicate with the instructor before they register to make sure that it will be possible for that instructor to grade at the pace that the student needs them to grade. We don't want to take anybody's money if it's not going to be a successful experience for them. So we'll do a double check with that instructor. We'll let them know the student's name, the situation, how quickly they would like to progress through the class. And if the instructor thinks they can manage that, they'll say yes. And then we'll double check in with that instructor frequently to make sure they're on that pace that they agreed to. Sometimes the instructor will say that's not possible for a variety of reasons. And then we'll communicate that with the student. And if that timing won't work for the student, then we will cancel their registration request. So they're not out any money.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Just putting this out there, I've used Independent Study Idaho for 2 students before, and it was amazing. And it was specifically for students who got to the very end and, oh, I didn't think I needed COM 101 when you said you needed COM 101 or something along those lines. And classes had already closed for the semester and they weren't going to be able to graduate. And so it was a really, really wonderful thing to kind of send students here and be like, if you really want to do it, you can probably get it done and do it kind of at your own pace. And there's no preset start time. And so if you have an emergency kind of in that last semester and need to get something, this is a really great resource, especially for those GEM classes. And I've really appreciated having that. So highly recommend.
Thanks for saying something. I just dealt with an advisee who had thought he was going to graduate, walked, received his final grades, and realized that he did not pass a class he needed to pass. And that made him 1 credit short of earning his degree. And he had moved away. He had gone home. And so he was able over the summer to do an ISI class and still be graduated by the end of the summer instead of having to return to campus to take 1 extra class. So I do think in a lot of situations like that, it can be very helpful.
I have one quick question for you, Barb. So students need to request like an official transcript and have that sent to their institution, correct? To have the credit
Yes.
transfer over? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yes. At this point, Boise State isn't sponsoring any of our courses. They're only being sponsored by U of I, ISU, and LCSC. So yes, all of your students will need to have those transferred over. And your registrar's office actually has a lovely transfer page set up in their independent study in Idaho section that will make it very clear for students how things will transfer. So there's no surprises on that end. But yes, they'll need to transfer those. It ends up being a pretty quick process since it's happening within the state. And sometimes if what I have done for students who are antsy that perhaps their grade completion isn't showing yet, I've been able to write letters to advisors such as yourselves or other folks in departments to say, I can promise you that the student has taken and passed this class. I know it's a prereq for what they're waiting to register for. Oftentimes that's enough to get them into the course where it's a prereq. But anything I can do to help them, I'll do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Any final questions for Barb? Okay, Barb, thank you so much for being patient with me. I'm glad that I was able to go back into Zoom and change the access. Please let us know if you need to come back to talk about any other changes, any changes to the program.
Absolutely, I will. And if you all have questions for me, please don't hesitate to reach out, send students my way. I'm happy to talk with students as well, though I will always refer them back to their advisors before they say, this is the class for me, because sometimes it's actually not, right?
And you did send out some information via email, correct?
I did, yeah. I sent a document designed for students to help them understand how ISI will work for them in their progress through Boise State. So please feel free to share that with students. There is a link on that page or a reference to our website, and the website is still being updated. So you have the paper copy that you're welcome to share with students. It's just not quite on the website yet. Soon, end of the week, fingers crossed.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thanks, you too. Okay, next up, Megan Lindbeck to talk with us about the Boise State Advisor Summit.
Hey, everybody. You might have seen an email from us right before break letting you know, but we are having our second ever Boise State Advisor Summit. It's going to be held on Tuesday, April 11th. So coming up, our first summit, if any of you were here back in February of 2020, that's when we had the first summit. So it's been a minute since we've had one, but we're excited to try to get it going again this year. This year, though, we also did, we combined the summit and the CWI Advisor Collaboration event. So if you're kind of familiar with that event, that is not going to be its own separate thing. We're going to combine it with this time. So we've also invited the advising community partners that we have, not only from CWI UI, but also this year we are happy to invite the College of Southern Idaho and Treasure Valley Community College as well. So we're trying to get a bunch of advising folks all together in one spot, which will be pretty exciting. The main thing I want to talk about here is that our call for proposals for presentations for that summit is open right now. We're really looking for any member of the advising community from any one of these schools, but from you folks as well, it'd be great. Basically, if you have a passion or an interest in advising that you want to share, or maybe like a best practice that you use with your students, any sort of like new or interesting or cool thing that you learned from a conference would be great. Anything you just kind of want to share with each other. We'd love a variety of presentations and topics, things like that. Different areas would be great, but really just putting out the call again. You're going to get an email from us as a reminder for the call for proposals tomorrow, but just because we had an opportunity to say everything face to face today, wanted to do that here. Friday, January 20th is the deadline that we have for those presentation proposals. And you can use the Google form that was in the initial email or in the email that I'm going to send tomorrow to submit those proposals. Does anybody have any questions about the summit or anything I can help answer? Or any of my colleagues in ASC want to hype it up just as much as me?
I would just like to reiterate, thinking, did I freeze?
Yeah, you froze for a second.
Cool.
Yeah.
Connection unstable and I'm on campus. This is so fun. Okay, sorry about that. So because we're inviting and thinking about that collaboration coming together, and while we're hosting it, I know that we are going to send a reminder to our community partners as well of like really encouraging their voice in the proposals. However, we really want a plethora of opportunities and like a diversify these set of offerings. So thinking about if you wouldn't mind huddling with your units, maybe there is somebody within your space that has already submitted something, but if you do feel really strongly about, you know, something different that you want to submit, or maybe you have colleagues at another institution that you want to co-present. I mean, honestly, there's so many different ways in which we could really build, I guess, this event and offer it that could provide a large positive impact for not only your work, but the students that you're serving. And so if it's not just an advising unit, I know we have some campus partners on this call as well. You are welcome to also submit those proposals. We really want to think about it advising, but also just student success and student support. So with that in mind, I know that there was an expectation for in 2020 that all colleges have the expectation to submit something. I will say with it being next Friday, there is, it does not have to be completely flushed out and your presentation ready to go. If you wouldn't mind, like just throwing out some of those ideas, a little bit of a thought going into this proposal, but you have time to actually finalize this presentation. So I don't want that to feel overwhelming and keep anybody from submitting an offering. You would have time to build this. But those initial thoughts, those initial ideas, I highly encourage all of our units to submit something, including what we might receive from our community regional partners as well. Tomas?
Just a couple of random comments. One, I've had the pleasure of sitting with our colleagues from surrounding colleges and universities when they've come to campus as teams of advisors. And one thing, and also related, been on search committees where we're interviewing advisors from other campuses who are looking to come to Boise State for advising. And one thing that has come up fairly consistently is that our colleagues at the other campuses sort of assume and expect that we have a lot of things going on here, that we know what we're doing, that the university is complex, and that we have a well of knowledge that they would like to be a part of. And that always makes me feel really good. And I'm keenly aware that this is our opportunity to welcome our colleagues from off campus and provide them with information about not just the university, but also your respective areas. And so I would, in the friendliest way possible, challenge all of you to ask yourselves, what do you know about your work? What do you feel particularly passionate about? What do you think that you know better than anyone else on campus, to be frank? And what should the rest of us know about it in order to make us better advisors or just more aware of how things work around here? I would love to see that. And I'll go back to, it feels like 50 years ago now, but I'll go back to February of 2020 and relate my experience sitting in a presentation that I believe AJ did regarding non-trad students. And I walked in there thinking, yeah, I know everything there is to know about non-trad students. Been one, been there, impressed me. And I was super impressed. I learned things about non-trad students that I didn't think that I had to learn. So please do submit those presentation ideas. As Elizabeth said, they don't need to be fleshed out. They could be just the germ of an idea that you promise to develop and will wow us with in April. And we would love to see them. And if you have any questions, please shoot us emails. We would love to talk with you about this.
If anybody in this meeting has yet to receive the save the date or any of the information that we've been talking about, please send Megan and or myself a quick email with your name, the department that you're supporting, and your Boise State email, and we'll make sure that you receive all of the necessary materials moving forward.
And Tomas, it's good to hear that somebody walked away from our presentation with something. So thanks for saying that.
Yeah, that's real. I'm not making that up. I've thought about that presentation several times over the pandemic, just because again, as a non-trad student, I felt like I was recognized as someone that frankly we should all understand a little bit better. But also I love that there were advisors on campus who were schooling me on stuff that I just thought I knew. And that was a great experience. So thank you for that presentation. Would love to see you do something that built on that in this event or future events.
Well, our online advising team is considering a proposal. So hopefully we'll have something that will be equally as educational.
Awesome. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, last, absolutely not least, and Brett, don't worry about the time. All I need is 5 minutes at the very end, but you have all the rest of it. Brett Shelton wants to let us know about updates in the esports course. So Brett, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Tomas. I appreciate getting a chance to see all of you. And just like Andrew was saying, I really appreciate all the work that you do for all of us. I'm Brett Shelton. I'm a professor in educational technology in the College of Education. And I don't know if everybody knows esports and what esports is about at Boise State. So let me just kind of start at the beginning, and I'm going to give you just a really quick update as to where we're at. In 2017, Boise State became the second major university to establish a varsity esports program. And esports, in a phrase, is competitive video game play. And we play against other universities and colleges and other entities across the country. And just in the last few years, since 2017, I established it with another professor who is now our permanent coach. And we have a full-fledged arena that if you haven't been to see, you must go and see. It is amazing. It's on the corner of Front and Capitol. Sort of kitty corner. It's sort of across the street from Trader Joe's right there in the Grove Hotel. You and any students are welcome to come by the arena and attend any of the events that we have in person. It's really quite an amazing experience, and Boise State is really well established, and most would say we probably have the strongest reputation of any university in the nation now. And when it comes to esports, we have won several national championships. This year we have won several awards for Coach of the Year and Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year. And it's quite an amazing thing. And it's something that I think a lot of our students rally around. And it's been quite an interesting development when it comes to recruiting new students to campus. We have a lot of inquiries from high schoolers across the country about our scholarships and things like that that we offer through esports to come and play, and how you might go about getting into the program in order to play for the varsity team. But along with that, we've developed what we knew from the very beginning was going to be something that we wanted to establish as the first and the best in the country, is to try to create an esports academic side, an academic program for it. And we have done just that, in that we are going through the process right now so that our esports certificate will be approved for the 2023 catalog. But we've been teaching courses in esports since for the last few semesters, and including this semester. So we actually have 4 different 3-credit classes. They're all 7-week classes, so 2 in the first 7 weeks, 2 in the second 7 weeks. And I emailed you out, hopefully everyone got it, a 1 sheet that had to do with just the overview of what those esports courses look like and what they contain. So the effort within the esports certificate is not just for those that wish to play competitively, but those who just enjoy playing casually and are interested in the topic. There are about, right now, I think the last look at hitmarker.org, which is one of the main websites for esports careers, I think there's 40,000 openings. So they're in desperate need of people who want to work in the esports industry, the growing industry of esports as well. So we plan to prepare students to enter careers in esports, but also just support those that really enjoy what it is that they do in their free time and want to learn more about it. So part of that 1 sheet that I sent to you via email has a short description of each one of those courses. This semester, they're under the College of Innovation and Design Special Topics label of 497, but beginning in fall, they will have those ed tech course numbers associated with them. So there are 3, an introduction to esports, a content and analysis class, an operations and management class, and there's an esports capstone class. Will also be 3 credits. All of these are online courses, but we also have opportunities and encourage people to become involved with our varsity program and in the production side of things at the arena itself for those that are on campus. So I recognize some faces and some names that have already reached out to me where students have asked to come and visit the esports arena on campus. So we're trying to coordinate and get more of an established program to where people can come and visit the arena, because we really feel like it should be on that tour stop along with visiting the Blue Field and some other of the key places on campus, because it's that impressive of a facility. And so we're very excited to support the academic side and the curriculum side with esports, and continue to just pursue that excellence as far as Boise State athletics. So that was my 3-minute version. I don't know how well I did there, but are there any questions that I can take as part of that?
I have a quick question. I'm not sure if you'll know the answer. One of the things we've known as advisors is some of the College of Innovation courses have really large fees. Some of them don't. Do you know where this will fall?
This doesn't have any fees associated with it. We created the curriculum from scratch, and we are using open courseware, like open resources, and ones that we've created ourselves for everything. So as far as required software that might be associated with it, there's associated textbook at one point. There's there a lot of the games are that they would need to subscribe to have like trial versions, and so we take advantage of those kinds of opportunities. But we're willing to work with any of the students that that don't have access to any of the particular titles. In fact, we give them options usually, and there's always a free to play option as far as completing the assignments.
Brett, I love hearing about the arena, and I just have this image of it looking a lot like Thunderdome.
It's I mean, it's amazing. If you go to the College of Innovation and Design website or just search under esports, I think you'll be able to see some pictures. We were the first university to have our own Twitch channel. If anyone's familiar with Twitch, we have by far and away blown away all universities in terms of the amount of broadcasting and content we provided. So we have our own Boise State channel there if you check it out. And you'll see images of the arena, the shoutcasters that are in there. We actually have contracts where we produce and have broadcasts over high school matches, and they pay our students to do those shoutcasts. And so as part of their learning process, it's really more like an on-the-job internship, but they'll earn credit for it. So it's a pretty exciting area.
Nice. Any other questions for Brett? Okay, Brett, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Tomas. Appreciate it. Thank you all.
All right. Have a good day. Okay, so to wrap things up, we've got our 1-minute updates. Why don't we make sure to start with NSP so that they can do a shout out regarding OL recruitment.
Thank you, Tomas. Hi, everyone. My name is Adriana Facundo. I'm the Assistant Director for Orientation and New Student Programs currently, and I'm just sharing word. I sent an email to everyone already about this, so you have the details, but just letting you all know, again, we're hiring. Applications for Orientation Leader are officially live as of Monday, and they close on January 23rd. And just letting you all know that, again, we're looking for students, undergraduate degree seeking students, so they can be anywhere from within their first year to entering their last semester next December or next fall. But we're looking for across all majors, and the core values we're just looking for in students. We can train them on most anything, but looking for students who are, again, committed to serving new students, have that service mindset, working on a diverse team, fostering inclusive environments, and just know that they have more to learn and want to help new students find their community and foster a sense of student belonging in all of our incoming students. So again, I sent those details to you all, but it really does take a whole campus to help spread word. And it takes people who know and have relationships with students to tap a student and say, hey, you would be really great at supporting new students, and have a story to share about how you maybe worked through challenges or found community. But all students we invite, and again, you can nominate a student and we'll email them and say that they've been nominated, or you can just spread word in general in your, whether, classrooms, advisees, but again, just as long as they're undergraduate degree seeking and or at least here through next fall, we're looking for them to help serve new students.
Okay, Adriana, thank you. Super quick round robin, AASC, any 1-minute updates?
I have 2 and I'll go fast. So hitting advising directors inboxes for NSO virtual. Essentially, we'll be sending out email and instructions to advising leads, and then they will share with advising staff and support service staff, and whether it's peer advisors or whoever, but essentially we'll be building this quickly, knowing that our go live for summer 2023 orientation will be March. So basically building slate appointments for our spring program, which will be LDO and transfer. The deadline to build those appointments, and again, similar materials will be shared as in the past, will be February 10th. Have a few meetings with a few folks this week. If there are questions after this email has been sent, by all means, please reach out to Maria and myself. We will be happily to support you all in the slate creation, but I feel like so many people are veterans these days. So that is coming fast, and we will get to building pretty quickly here. And then just another reminder, as new staff have been coming on board, as you begin your journey as an academic advisor, please do send us, whether it's the supervisor or you have not completed advisor training, please send us your information, and we're happy to get you enrolled in this course so you can complete it within 30 days of your hire date. Thank you.
And Tim.
Yeah, I also have just a really, really fast update regarding required first year advising. Fall 22 is the cycle we just ended. We removed 95.6% of the holds. The prior fall 21, we were at 93%. So everybody's up. Great job. For spring of 23, so the next cycle, holds will be placed on February 13th, which is also the day the communication will go out to students. A lot of you will get copied on that communication as well, so you'll get it. We're looking at approximately 690 students will have holds this cycle. There were 615 last cycle, so we're up a little bit in that number. But again, February 13th, I will make sure to share those lists with you before then. But that's what we're looking at.
All right, Tim, thank you. Cass, any updates?
Yeah, we have one update just with the Math Learning Center. Gary Haggerty retired at the end of fall, and Tom Bailey will be stepping in as interim director of the Math Learning Center. So any questions or anything that you have regarding that, you can contact Tom Bailey. They are hoping to launch for a new director and have someone placed by August. So that is our update.
Okay, thank you. Kobe.
Yes, just a couple updates, more just personnel updates. So we do have 3 new hires. I wanted to just take a quick moment to introduce them. Thank you, Tomas, because you did sit on those hiring committees. And ironically, as we were kind of talking about these partnerships with the Advisor Summit, all 3 of them did come from CWI. So now they've got their own problem to replenish their stock. But I wanted to introduce Ramiro, Crystal, and Jessica. They're our newest advisors. They're somewhere in one of your screens of this Zoom meeting. But anyway, if you see them, welcome them. If you get emails from them, they are one of ours now. So treat them kindly, please.
All right. Welcome. And thank you. Okay, co-ed. Nothing from co-ed. Moving on, engineering.
No updates.
Okay, CID.
Sorry, couldn't find my mouse there. No new updates for us.
Okay, thank you. SPS.
Nothing from SPS.
Okay, extended studies, concurrent enrollment.
I'd like to do an announcement too. We had just hired our second full-time advisor for concurrent enrollments. I'd like to welcome Jessica Markley to the staffing as well. And then we will be starting, we just finished up our graduation advising and we'll be supporting those students as they transition over summer. So if you've got questions about concurrent enrollment students that took courses through Boise State, feel free to reach out to us as you're prepping for this summer orientation.
Great, thank you, Karina. And last, certainly not least, honors.
No updates, but to the new advisors, welcome. And if you do have any honors related questions, please feel free to reach out ahead of us coming and visiting your unit. Happy to answer any questions or jump on Zoom and do a crash course in honors.
Okay, thank you, Brandy. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We have 3 more UAN meetings on the calendar for spring 23 term. Those meetings will take place on February 14th, March 14th, April 11th. There will also be at least one other UAN meeting that's not yet scheduled for May, focusing on summer 23 orientation. We will let you know in the coming weeks when that training will take place. Let me do this.